National Fisherman and Pacific Marine Expo are proud supporters of the Galley Stories podcast, as we make similar efforts to highlight the people and topics that define commercial fishing. You can see what that looks like in print and online all year long, as well as every November in Seattle when this community comes together at PME. Check out nationalfisherman.com and pacificmarineexpo.com to learn more.
Hello and welcome to Galley Stories, stories of the Bering Sea and beyond, hosted by Mark Kaler. My name is Penka Jane, podcast deckhand and longtime listener. We'd thank you to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Here's today's catch.
Hello guys, welcome back to another installment of Galley Stories, stories of the Bering Sea and beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler. And once again, we're back with Tim Vincent, continuing with episode 2. Tim, thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And we ended the last one with the greatest catch. Is that how we called it?
Yeah, pretty much. Just.
I feel like there's a story here.
There's a story, and it's a bit of a lengthy story, and it's been a long time. It's been 20-some years, so I hope I don't, botch this or whatever. I'll try my best, recollection of it, and I'll also try to remember some of my crew who did extraordinary things on an extraordinary day. So this is on the stormy sea, and we would fish red king crab out in the Aleutian Islands, way out at a place called Semisopochnoi on the Petrel Banks. And I almost named my first gill netter the Semisopochnoi because basically we had a season that was epic in terms of red crab. So good that I was able to basically buy a permit and a boat, just buy it outright, and save the trouble of all the payments and whatnot. And so we would go out to this Petrel Bank every year. We'd leave King Cove and we'd do the Great Circle route. We'd go through Unimac Pass and then we'd go way up above and we'd Great Circle out, way out. I mean, it's like Eastern Hemisphere, you're fishing out there, that far out. So, and I hope I get this all right. It's quite a story. It's early in the morning, and we've gone through Unimac Pass, and the weather's pretty crappy. It's blowing out of the northwest, gusting to 35. You got the radio on. The mate has gotten me up for watch in the morning. It's, I don't know, probably like 6, 7 in the morning, something like that. And, I got the sidebands on, take the watch. Hey, what's going on? Everything good? Yep. Nope, everything's fine. Steady as she goes, lousy weather. And we've got just way on for the Aleutian Islands and going to go do our fishing. And so I'm driving along. I got a cup of coffee, and I hear on the VHF radio a boat called the Rocket 2, which was a halibut boat, a little, basically about a 46 foot or thereabouts, not real big halibut. And this is November, and he's off Cape Cheerful, and he's had an issue with, I believe it's his fuel system, and his engine has died, and he's foundering. And at the time, he gives his situation on the radio, and there were 2 of the head and gut factory boats in close proximity. They were basically a half hour closer than we were to this situation. And so I'm kind of like, at this point, my crew's sleeping. I got a cup of coffee. I got my feet up, on the console, and just cruising along like any captain on autopilot, basically, just kind of enjoying the morning, enjoying his cup of coffee and his morning reflection. And so this radio news flash comes of Rocket 2 in distress, and okay, well, there's 2, factory boats there. They can probably get him. He's off Cape Cheerful, and the waves are coming on shore. and he's pretty close to Cape Cheerful, as it turns out. And so I'm listening to this, and I'm the outsider listening in, and we had safety training through MPFVOA, Vessel Safety Association, and I'm with the board of directors there. Been the president for 20 years of that Vessel Safety Association. And how I came to be involved with MPFVOA is very interesting. I was one of those guys that like, oh, I don't need safety training. I mean, I wasn't like that, like, oh, I don't need it or whatever, but I was just sort of like, well, I'm busy, there's no time for that or whatever, and didn't really felt like it just was under the radar, so to speak. Well, I'm backing up a bit from the story, but I'm trying to set the plate for what's about to happen here. We're fishing barredeye crab in the winter, and it's ice fog and it's really cold, and we're making a move, like a major move from, we're gonna move 200 miles from where we are to a whole different fishing ground. So I got a full load of pots on, and 3 times in my career I've had what are called pants shitter moments, and I will go through them and lead up into the third one, which speaks to the story that I'm going to tell. The first one that got me going on MPFVOA was, so we're in the ice fog doing barredeye, and one of my guys is working the stack, and he's in tight by the crane. We're putting the last little pieces of the puzzle, like working tight, and you can't see anything as the pots are stacked up just to below the level of the window. So your only form of communication is through the loud hailer, which is compromised at best. And all of a sudden I hear, man overboard, and Graham Godstein had gotten, kind of like bumped by a pot in the crane, and it knocked him in the water. And when you have a guy in the water in that kind of condition and you can't see him and you don't know what's going on, the adrenaline just kicks on. And 3 times in my career, my left leg has done the Watusi dance, and I would love to bottle this stuff and give it to guys like me who are horrible dancers, because it just frees you up, man. All of a sudden your leg is just moving like Elvis, because you're so freaked out that, like, oh my God, somebody's going to die here, and it could happen in seconds. And my first mate, Craig McPherson, to his fantastic credit, donned a survival suit, got a line, and went after the guy and basically saved him, like practically single-handedly, but, the guys were in on it. But, I mean, kudo, Craig, if you hear this, I love you, brother. Man, you did great things that day, great things, and it was a life-changer for me, definitely, without a doubt. I probably owe a lot to Craig, and I've never thanked him for it, and if you hear this, I'm thanking you right now profusely, because it was a major difference maker. Because if you lose a guy, you're never going to be the same person, the rest of your life. There's no way in hell, And I want all you listeners out there to think about that long and hard, definitely. You will not be the same. It hasn't, knock on wood, hasn't happened, but, I can only imagine the consequences. So we got him back. We got him, we got the rice under his armpits and groin, and we got him warmed up, and it was all good, and it was sort of like bullet dodged, okay. And I was like, man, no, we're getting safety training now, definitely. We're going to go to MPFVA. We're going to learn about, things. We're going to learn about man overboard. We're going to do this, and so that kind of happened. We joined and did the training and did the drills, and kind of got into it a little bit, and so a little later on in my career, stormy sea again. I had a crewman, Hawaiian guy by the name of Tito Balasikan, and he was a wonderful Hawaiian guy, young guy, nice, beautiful personality, good hard worker. And we were out in the Bering Sea. I can't remember if it was king crab or bear or snow, but I think it was king because Rick was on the boat. And when the tide runs against the wind out there, the buoys get all weird. Like the buoys lay weird, and the tide can get ripping because it's coming out of the bay, right? And we know how big the tides here are, and so we had that hauling scenario going where you had the guy on the rail had to be really quick, like I was talking about earlier when I got hit by a wave. And so Tito was working the rail, he was throwing the hook, and the Stormy Sea didn't have a keel on it, so the bow, we had a big bow thruster, which was great, but in real big wind and weird tide, it didn't have enough to compensate, for like that much. And but it was plenty powerful, let me tell you. Well, anyways, we're working this string of gear, the bags are laying weird. It's like the type of thing where if you don't get that thing in the block immediately, it's gone, and you just got to let it go, and you got to circle around. And the Stormy Sea, 170 feet, it is a long haul around in a circle. And Tito throws the hook to a pot, and the grappling hook line, we used a grapple that was very, it really had some bite to it. Like when you got a hold of that line, it was like purchased. It didn't slide down the buoy at all. It just, it like bit into the hook, and that was that. He got a bite around his arm, and he didn't get things in time, and the bow swung away in the tide, and so basically he has a bite of line around his bicep that is tethered to a 700 plus pound crab pot on the bottom of the ocean, and this 500 gross ton vessel is rapidly moving away from the point of anchorage. And you can imagine where this is going, right? He got shot over the rail like he was shot out of a GD cannon, and just flew over the rail. And again, the Watusi dance ensues with the left leg, and I'm just, oh my God, I'm never going to get him. Because I can't, like, he's under the boat. I can't see him. It's shitty weather. I have, like all fishermen know, like there's different, like especially in salmon, everybody knows the light condition, and it's sort of like that aluminum ocean, where it looks like tin foil and you can hardly see a thing. And I'm like, I am screwed, man. This guy's going to die. I just don't know. Like I'm just, my legs going nuts. I'm furiously trying to maneuver the boat to get him and find him. And Tito was a pro class surfer. He was sponsored. And lo and behold, God willing, I don't know how, somehow he swam from under the boat and he knew he had to get to the starboard side of the boat because the port side was wave wall. There was no way to recover him. And he got to the starboard side of the boat, and Rick, my partner, he was a bear of a man, like a grizzly bear of a man, just powerful, like 300 plus pounds and just arms like tree trunks. And Rick kind of grabbed a hold of him, the other guys, and they just plucked him out of the water, like a purse almost. And he was projectile vomiting salt water at the time. And so we had to effect, a lot of, first aid type measure, but he was okay. And we got back into town, and everything sorted itself out. And I was like, I got with Tito, just him and me face to face, and I'm like, man, Tito, I'm so sorry. Like, God, what happened? What was it like? And he looked right at me, and he goes, Tim, I was underneath the boat, and I looked up, and I could see the bottom of the boat. I could see the anti-fouling paint, and he was like, this is where I die. I'm going to die here. And he was like, no, I'm not going to die. And he got the line off of his arm, and he swam out and got back on the boat. And that was through no great doing of mine whatsoever. It was just, as we call in the industry, shithouse luck, completely, that we got him back. So that was incident number 2. And that segues, now we're going to go back to this story. Okay, that kind of I hope it sort of gives some perspective to things I've seen and what's going to happen. And so now this boat, the Rocket 2, is foundering towards the shore. We have had MPFEOA training. There are 2 factory trawlers that are standing down, and rightfully so, because they have really big crews, boats that aren't super maneuverable, and the risk just basically outweighed any reward. It was like, hey, I have to defer to the Coast Guard. And so I'm listening to this drama unfold as we're steaming along, and I'm starting to think man, I think we can save those guys, I think we might have a shot if it happens. If they can't do it, and if it happens, I think we maybe have a shot at getting these guys. So I'm listening, and so what happened was people were suggesting things on the radio, and one of them was to get the anchor down, to arrest their drift. So they paid all their anchor out because they're getting dangerously close to these pinnacle rocks at Cape Cheerful, sharp, jagged rocks, and no power. So they got the anchor down, and Captain Morrow's just giving the blow-by-blow on his boat as it's coming to him, and they didn't have training. And one of the first things they did was they deployed their life raft from the boat alongside their boat, thinking that they would be able to jump into it, and and then that would be sort of their last line of defense. They also loaded their survival suits into the life raft, and they loaded their distress signals into the life raft. And now the anchor is fetched up, and they're in 20-foot seas in this 40-some foot boat. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, what's a guy fishing halibut in November in a 40-foot boat? He's out of his mind. It's like he should do this in the summertime or something, right? That's just the common sense guy in me, taking over or whatever. Well, it turns out his wife was pregnant, and he wanted to be there for the birth of his child, and so that sacrifice, which is a great sacrifice, everybody should be there for the birth of their child, resulted in him. He's got to make some bread for his family, right? So it's like, okay, now we're going to move the season back, and we'll go fishing then because I want to be there for the birth of my child. Great, good stuff. So now the Rocket 2 is surging heavy on anchor. Their life raft is tethered off by the painter, and we're steaming along, listening in, and the survival suits are in the raft, the distress signals are in the raft. The Rocket 2 takes this massive surge on the anchor where the Rocket 2 goes up, the life raft goes aft, this mega surge, and it snaps the painter, and the life raft goes bye-bye. Vitus bearing, I win, you lose. I got your survival suits, I got your distress signals, you are screwed. And I'm listening to this, him explaining this, and I'm like, oh shit, man. And now my feet come down and the coffee comes up, and I'm vested. I'm like, okay, these guys aren't going in, and I'm about 25 minutes out, and it's getting real serious here. So I drop the hammer, and I go down and wake the guys up, and I'm like, hey guys, coffee and cornflakes. I said, we got a situation off Cape Cheerful, and these guys are probably in really serious trouble, and we're going to go after them. So get your game face on. Let's do this. And so my guys get up, and Stormy Sea's a pretty fast boat. We had a bulbous bow on it to make 12 knots at full speed, which doesn't seem like a lot, but for a big displacement hull. That's a pretty darn good speed. And so I got the pedal to the metal, and Captain Morrow is still on anchor, and he's got a VHF, and his stuff's gone. And so I had started marine surveying about that time. I'd done, like maybe I had a year under my belt, or actually no, I think I had about maybe 3-4 years, something like that, if the numbers, I can't quite remember the years or whatever. But so I'm thinking about their dilemma, and I'm thinking like, Tim, God, think, man, you survey boats, like you go through boats. That's all you do all the time when you're not fishing, is like, what's on boats. Like, think, what can they use? And all of a sudden I'm like, shit, scuba diving gear. I see scuba gear all the time on boats, like not all the time, but I see it pretty frequently. So I call him, I go, hey, Captain Morrow, this is the Stormy Sea, or, Rocket 2, this is the Stormy Sea. I said, do you have any scuba gear on board? Because they had one immersion suit, for 3 guys. And he's like, yeah, we do. And I'm like, well, you better get them on. So they get their wetsuits on, and now we got hammered down. My guys are getting up, they're getting woken up, they got coffee, they're getting cornflakes, and we got the pedal to the metal, this old 1944, ugly old girl just making way, to try to do something. And so he's on the radio, the captain again, and he goes, holy shit, this is my last transmission, we're abandoning ship. And you could tell by his tone of voice that, he was like, peril was impending, like he was in big surf, big swell, really close, to the end, basically. And they jumped in the water in their suits. They felt that was the end play, like they had no alternative. And that was his last transmission. And so now we're still about 20 minutes out. 2 guys in wetsuits and 1 guy in a survival suit have abandoned ship in huge surf, in shitty weather, and we're coming, but we're a ways out. So we finally arrive on scene, what seemed like an eternity. And one of the things they train you in Man Overboard is the pointer, the person that points. So I got my lookouts posted, and we see the Rocket too, and we see it's abandoned, and it's just foundering, it's floating. And I'll never forget this to this day. There's 2 things I've seen in my career: the Arctic wind sink, which I barely got off of, like within 25 minutes as a kid. We could talk about that story a little later if you want, but this is the main course here, so to speak. Watching the Rocket 2, there's a rock in Dutch Harbor that everybody knows called Priest Rock. It's, it's famous or whatever. It looks like this massive priest. Well, there's a lot of pinnacles out there. This was like baby Priest Rock, like just same kind of thing, super jagged pinnacle. And the Rocket 2 hit that thing like in a swell, broadside, and it just smashed it, and spun at 360 degrees. And Vitus Bering keeps gobbling, right? He's just, I got your number, baby, and I'm hungry. I'm going to give me some more, right? And so that was really something to see. And it was like, then that's why they abandoned ship, right? I mean, they would have never survived that, it probably would have, just that event could very well have killed them just from the impact. It was that, vicious. And so we don't see them. We don't see anybody. We don't see anything. And I'm watching my fathometer, and it's closing down to 9 fathoms. We're in 20 footers, right? And you get pretty nervous about being in that kind of stuff when you're that close to shore. Don't see anything. I get this terrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, like these guys are dead. There's my buddy Fonzie's on the memorial in Seattle. You go down there, you see all these names of these people, and it hits home, it becomes real to you, right? And I'm like, well, there's 3 more going to be on the memorial, that's that. But let's keep looking here. Let's keep looking. And I just feeling totally defeated, like, Vitus, you win again, right? And all of a sudden, Tito Balasican, the guy that had been overboard and come back to life, one of my main guys, there they are, right there, right there, right there. And I'm like, where? And I'm looking, and he's like, right there, right there. And I thought it was harbor seals or otters because of the black scuba, but one of them was International Orange, the survival suit. And I'm like, well, yeah, harbor seals don't wear International Orange. Shit, that's them, man. It's game on, baby. And so I'm like, all right. And they're together and they're really close to the shore. And I'm like, and it's, it's onshore and it's 20, 25 foot seas. And I'm like, there's only one way I can do this without us being there as well. And thank God Rick built this boat with a massive bow thruster and, it repowered it and good engine, good equipment. And so what I did was I could drive that boat backwards really good with the thruster just by using the thruster. Like when we'd park in Kenmore, I'd come back and weave it in, it was really sweet, handling boat. And I was like, I told the guys, I go, guys, I'm going to back in, I'm going to back into the surf and we'll extract them, because I have to have an out. I said, if I get broadside, we're done because we're, there's pinnacles everywhere. Let's just hope to God we don't find one of them, right, in this process. And so I start backing in and I'm thrusting and, I'm really, got the smoke on good, a lot of power and just trying to, it's like trying to dock a boat in 25-foot seas, you're really working it. And then you got the added tension of the whole situation. And these guys, you got to remember, they've been in scuba diving gear for more than 25 minutes treading water in 25 footers. So you can imagine their condition, they're getting pretty wiped out. So they're very much worn out. I am backing towards them. And Captain Morrow was young. He was the captain, the guy with the baby that, he stayed late for. And he's a young, handsome man, very fit. And he, out of the three guys, he swam forward and he got up to our pot hauling rail, and Ray Bull and Willie Edwards, those guys were able to haul him on board at the rail. Okay, so we got one, and this guy was he came on like a halibut, without life, pretty spent. So we've got him. Now, the other two crewmen were named Peter Corvina and Walter Van Bliswick. And Walter Van Bliswick, he was the guy in the survival suit. And as part of our MPFEOA training, we learned all about the life sling harness, and kind of as a really good tool to use to save people. And so what we did was we streamed the life sling harness to Mr. Van Bliswick, and he was able to get it around his, under his arms and get harnessed up. And we had him on 150 for that. Those harnesses are 150 feet in length. I said, pay it all the way out. Just, let's get him tethered off to the rail, and then we've got him. And then we can try to get the other guy, Peter Corvina, who is in the scuba diving suit, and we will hopefully deal with Van Bliswick in due course here, right? Well, one thing I've learned about incidents is they take on a life of their own. The best laid plans just go right out the window as far as you think you have, a plan of execution. Like I thought, I can do this, this is great. I'll be able to pick them up, stern first, and some complications arose out of that whole scenario. But it was the only choice I had. I did not have other options, because if I went in bow first if a big sea shoves me, on a quarter, I'm in the surf. If I'm in broadside, I'm in the surf. The only way was back in, like your hove to, and straight out. And so we get Van Bliswick in the life sling harness, thinking it's all going to be great. Well, you ever seen the TV shows or the story about Ski King, water skiing, like the story where, and it's even been on I think maybe on Caddyshack maybe or something, where the water skier, like, it's like, you ready, Ski King? Yeah, hit it, and the guy like hangs on to the handle too long, and he's plowing, water like over his face and up his nostrils. Well, unfortunately for Mr. Van Bliswick, that's what he was enduring, because every time, like, you got to remember, the seas are pushing me onto the shore hard. So I got to fight that off, right? So I'm like, this is, it's not like a twin jet in Bristol Bay where you put the power on and you're on plane instantly. This is this old girl that's heavy and lumbering, and it had a Cat 3512 in it, which was a really good engine. And I would just, power up, and it takes, you put the throttle down and there's a delay, and then all of a sudden it spools up and powers up. So you got to be ahead of the game the whole time. And at the same time, I'm thrusting wildly to just stay on point, right? And I got Van Bliswick, who's Ski King back there, and every time I'm putting the hammer down, he's going underwater, literally, like he's Ski King, and I can imagine his level of discomfort, right, being just towed, and this is like, he's probably thinking like, yeah, this is working out great for me, right? You want to save me or what, or you want to kill me? So, anyways. The real nut of this thing was Peter Corvina, and this goes to the best laid plans. Well, anybody who's seen The Deadliest Catch has seen the Wizard. They would identify with that type of boat. It's an identical boat, ours being blue, the Wizard being black. The difference being, we had one deck level higher, but we also had the same fantail on the stern with this round, like it's an old school, like it was an old Ira Bushy YO. And so we deployed the Jacob's ladder over the stern, thinking that that's going to be like the great idea, right? And we can get these guys, like they can board they're just going to board the Jacob's ladder. They're just going to walk right on board. They've been in wetsuit for 25 minutes. Well, poor Peter Corvina, he was probably 140 pounds soaking wet. He was not he was a strong, wiry little guy, but not necessarily a very robust guy, right? And he was wiped. He was at the end of the scale in terms of, his just like strength. And he got to our Jacob's ladder, and we deployed it right by the propeller. And on those boats, the propeller's pretty damn close to the surface of the water. It's like really close. Propeller's about 6 feet tall, something like that. So I got Ski King back there, who's just getting buried every time I get on it. And my leg, I'm dancing. I got the Watusi going on with my left leg like never before. It's just really going. Elvis couldn't hold a candle to me on that day, man. I was just motating with my leg. And my guys are back there. They're trying to, do whatever they can and be in the game, and they're taking all this in. And I'll just never forget this. I'm one deck level higher than the Wizard, and I'm looking down at this guy who's got one arm over the bottom rung of the Jacob's ladder, and I'll bet you his legs are maybe 3 feet from my propeller tips, maybe. And you know how much wash that thing's putting out, right? Or it could suck him in, and I'm just like, F, man. I'm like, oh my God, And I'm just fighting, to keep the boat, the nose out, keep out of the rocks, Ski King behind me, and Corvina hanging over with one arm on the Jacob's ladder. And I look down at him, and he looks up at me, and he's just got this, he looks at me just like, I think I can't make it. Like he looked like, just want to go to McDonald's, man. I just want to get a cheeseburger. And I'm like, and Captain Bligh came out, and my guys on my boat, they know when Captain Bligh comes out, I can be a different kind of beast when I got my temper on. I got it from my grandpa was a tugboatman. He immigrated from Wales at age 13 in the Canadian Navy as a cabin boy, so you can imagine his upbringing. I think I got some of his meanness in me or whatever. And I'm going to drop an F-bomb here. Apologies up front, but Corvina gives me this look, like he's going to cash in his chips, and I just, the wild man came to town. He came out to ride into town, and I go, you just fucking hang in there, man. Just fucking hang in there. We will get you. Okay? And I'm just like, go back inside, slam the pedal to the metal, the delay. I'm just like, please, God, don't let him be in the wheel. Don't let him be in the wheel. Don't let him be in the wheel. Because if I if I ground him up in my wheel, I'd be a basket case the rest of my life, right? And so this went on for like, God, 4 or 5 iterations. And I'm getting exhausted. I'm like, we're never going to get him. We're never going to get him. And I spoke at, you may know who Kenny Peterson is in the industry. He's pretty well known. There's Ken Peterson Sr. and Ken Peterson Jr. and Chris Peterson. They're pretty, I guess, famous, for lack of a better word, and good Ballard people, just good Norwegian people. And Kenny was this, he passed away recently, God rest his soul, love him. He's just the funniest guy ever. Big Viking guy, handsome, just a lady killer. Blue eyes, blonde hair, big shoulders, about 6'3". And guys are all watching. I'm effing flipping out, because I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can pull it off. I know I can probably get Van Bliswick back there, but this guy, I don't know if I can get him, and I'm so worried about him being ground up in my propeller, and my legs going, and I'm about at wit's end. And Kenny, to his fantastic credit, got the balls up. His adrenaline kicked in. I guess he'd had enough. He descended that Jacob's ladder, and this guy's in a wetsuit, right? Like full of water. He probably weighs, even at 145, I bet he weighs like pushing 180. Kenny's on a Jacob's ladder by himself, grabs this guy with one arm, and if you don't believe in fight or flight, man, I'm here to tell you, he hauls him up the Jacob's ladder. And then the other guys grab him and haul him on board, right? And we got him. Somehow we got him on board. Don't ask me how. But we got him. And I was so worried about him just getting killed by the propeller. It was just, and it was like 0.0, man. I'm out of options. I am 100% out of options. It's either I kill him or somehow we get him on. And Kenny, God bless you, brother. You did good. You did really, really good that day. And so the third guy, Van Bliswick, now we got him. Now he's like a big shark out there. I could reel him in kind of slow, So we just kind of, the guys start working him in, and I'm just trying to ease off it enough, and stay out of the rocks that they can work him in. And we got 2, and we were thinking, 3, it's going to be a slam dunk, or at least I was thinking that. I'm just the eternal optimist, right? I always am. I always have been. I don't know why. I just kind of a can-do. Like, I just think, I just think things can happen, and sometimes they don't. But anyways, we got him, but now he's at the Jacob's ladder, and he's a bit of a problem too. And I am, at this point, I have lost my shit, completely. And just started screaming at the crew, just fucking get down there and get him, And sure enough, Ray and the other guy, they got a hold of him, survival suit and all, and they hauled him up on board, and we got 3. And you just primally react. Like, I got him, I got clear of the rocks, I sort of took a sigh of relief, and the primal came out in me. I just looked at the sky, and I just thought about all the people that have been killed in the Bering Sea, and I was just you didn't get these guys, Vitus. And I just let out this primal scream, just, yeah, you know, just crazy. And I was like, you didn't get them, we got them. And so we took them into town, and man, they looked us in the eye and they shook our hands, and that felt really, really good that day. But the best part of it all was, it's now months later, and I'm home. It's Christmas time. My wife, she loves to decorate, you know, Christmas tree and whatnot, and getting a little choked up here about this. So when she's doing Christmas, I help, but she's really good at it. She's like a flower decorator, and I'm just basically I'm the useless greenhorn in the thing or whatever. So I try to stay out of her way, and we were kind of having a little bit of a, you know, kind of a day where we were husband and wife. We've been together forever. You have your days when you're a little bit at odds, and so I'm kind of avoiding her, and she knew all about the story and everything that happened, and she comes at me with a Christmas card, and she kind of thrusts it under my nose, and she looks me in the eye. She goes, "You know who this is?" And I look at it, and I'm like, no, I don't know who that is. And then I look a little closer, and it's Captain Morrow, and he's got his baby. And it hit me like a sledgehammer, man. I was like, that's why we do this. That's why that kid is going to have his dad. And man, that feels really, really good. Definitely. In the words of Forrest Gump, that's all I got to say about that. So
That is that's an incredible story.
yeah, I don't talk about it much, but it's very, very, when you do good, you feel good. And we lucked out, you know. So.
Have you had any other interactions with those three guys?
Not really. No. You know, he sent the card. I haven't, you know, but that's okay. It's all good. You know, I don't expect that. And I, to be honest with you, if I was in the same predicament, you know, any other trust me, I am not extraordinary by any stretch of the imagination, and all credit due to my my crew. All of them, you know, they all did fantastic that day, and collectively, you know, we pulled something off that was basically miraculous, really, truthfully, right? And we lucked out. I mean, we really, really lucked out, and some people stepped up of my crew. You know, all of them stepped up huge. Don't get me wrong, every single one of them, but it was just a collective effort. It just goes to show, you know, what people can do if they're motivated enough, I guess. So,
you know, yeah, every episode I kind of ask, well, I always ask, what was your greatest day at sea and what was your worst day at sea? Sounds like you had both of them at once.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much, I would say, definitely. It was certainly it just felt so good to do something good. You know, it really, really did. I'm not like looking for, like, I don't know, accolades or anything like that. But it just, you feel when you do another human being right by saving them, man, it's just something really special. It really is. So, that, you know,
This is
if I was gonna say anything to all the listeners out there, just you know, try to be a highliner at safety when you can. I realize we're all busy, you know, or whatever, but also think, you know, safety's not proprietary. It's not like, hey, I got this special spot fishing that I don't want you to know about, or some technique. We all can agree that we all would love to save lives more. So just try to highline in that sense of it and share the love. So yeah.
So Tim, this is actually the exact reason I do this.
Nice. Yeah.
I mean, what you just said, not many people have ever heard this story from you.
Yeah.
You said you wrote it down 20 years ago.
Yep.
And speak very little about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke one time at a insurance. As you know, I'm a marine surveyor, and so every once in a while would go to some of the insurance people to interact with the underwriters and insurance brokers, representatives, and I spoke at that, and I also I don't know, I'm a wimp, I cried at that too, and I kind of think back about it. You're such a weenie, don't cry, or whatever. But the thing with just seeing that kid, and just I've had so many friends in the industry, that have perished at sea. I mean, not so many, but several, and yeah, those people, they don't have their dad or their mom, or their
brother, their son.
Yeah, exactly. It's a missing, it's a huge hole in their heart, and Vitus Bering doesn't lose very often, and
I think
so
we're going to hear Vitus Bering in many more future episodes.
Yeah. Hopefully.
So because you brought it up, it's hard to even go to another story of struggle anyway. I mean, I'm a little choked up myself from hearing yours, but you talked about watching one of your boats sink.
Yeah, it was the Arctic Wind, and this was back, it was a brand new boat, and it was back in the 70s, late 70s, but was only 1 year old. I was working on it from basically the time they laid the keel to christening, and it was Tom Parks, KDK again, and that was actually kind of a part of the, I should have said that earlier on in the podcast. That was a part, piece of it that I missed or whatever. It was at KDK time, leading into the Arctic Sea. And make a long story short here, we're fishing for red crab out in the Aleutian Islands, and been out, close to 25 days, caught nothing. And then all of a sudden off of south, basically about south of Akutan, place called Tagalda Island, we ran into a patch of crab, and it was red hot, keeper males, full pots. We put on a half a load of crab in basically a half a day. It was just amazingly clean fishing, and lucky for us, the Sea Wolf was out there with Bob Watson, and Mark was his first name, can't remember his last name, but I survey the boat, the Vesteral, and I always tell the owners and the captain, I go, I owe a lot to this boat, man. They saved my bacon, so kudos to
discount.
You. Oh yeah. Anyways, yeah, the extra good stuff on the survey or whatever. But anyways, to cut to the chase here, fatigue is the killer, man. And everybody out there, just stay hydrated. Try to hit, the way the fishery works. I can't deal with it anymore. I fish Ugashik just because I'm older, and I just can't. I can't deal with those hours. If I sleep, 1 hour here and a couple hours there, I'm at the absolute ragged edge of comprehension.
So to explain that to our listeners a little bit, Ugashik is generally a one opening fishery per day.
Correct. Yeah.
So that means you got time to sleep.
Yeah.
Time to rest.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other rivers, the other three rivers are pretty much.
Yeah, you don't.
Gangbusters.
Yeah, you probably don't produce as much, right? I mean, it's not the optimum. If you're going for optimum dollar, it's not your river of choice or whatever. But I'm at a point in my life where I don't. I want to make good money for my crew, but at the end of the day, I want to keep them safe, and I want to I'm in the twilight, man. I want to enjoy my last years of this fishery, and so thusly, I fish there, and it kind of stings and it hurts because my buddies. I was an egg forever, and I was in a really good group, and they do really, really well, and they always beat me, and the competitor in me can't stand that, of course, but I'm sort of at a point where I'm willing to hey, what at it. It's you're getting ready, enjoy, smell the roses, it's over, man. So anyways, so yeah, that's why I do what I do there. And but again, like I say, fatigue, to cut back to the chase, the skipper was grinding really hard, and he fell asleep at the wheel and ran the boat into Tagalda Island at full speed, basically probably about 11 knots, and we hit hard rock, and it popped a hole underwater right at the bow stem, probably maybe 3 feet tall by about a foot wide, and it sounded like a Colorado River coming into that boat, just. And males don't do terror well. They don't multitask. They just kind of. I think I'd rather have females with me at that point. They can kind of handle things. Men just, oh my God, you know what? And just. So the chief engineer, and I call this out on my surveys all the time. I suggest to them. All these bigger boats have 6-inch diameter, some even 8. Emergency build suction systems that you can actually put all 3 pumps on one pipeline, and you can shoot like a fire hydrant, that's 6 inches in diameter out of your boat with all 3 pumps working together. But it's kind of a complex thing. You got to know how to do the valves. Well, the only time you ever use that device or ever would use it, theoretically, is in an emergency situation. And in an emergency situation, you're not going to be thinking, like how, because I've been there, I've done it. You don't think how you're going to think. You're just, terror kicks in and you become a different human being altogether. So our chief was struggling mightily with trying to get those pumps online, and primed up. He finally got it. But what I do in my surveys, I just say like, hey, this is what happened to me in my own personal experience. It would be a very good idea to label this very clearly, so in an emergency, it's sort of idiot proof, right? And you just know immediately what you need to do with it and go from there. And anything, to the industry for that matter, try to think about that, like when you're on your day-to-day operations, anything you can do that would crop its ugly head at an inopportune time, any little kind of simple marking or warning might be handy. Even like just danger rotating machinery. We talked about this poor young, woman that was, scalped in the bay, just things like that. And it's happening, the famous bird dog, Mark Ludwig, tremendous fisherman, unbelievable. Taught me a lot about fishing. He taught me how to hang net. He's a Trident Fisherman highliner, absolute highliner. And if you ever look at him closely, that poor fellow's been peeled, from his arm up to his chin almost from rotating machinery. And I'm sure he's got a story to tell there. So it's important stuff. It matters. Safety really does matter. So I just would tell everybody in the fleet, we all need to try better when and where we can, because it just, like I say, like in the stories I've told you tonight, it's going to take on a life of its own, whether you like it or not. And it's happened. It's already too late. It's happened before you know it, and the next thing you know, you got crisis on your hand. I even went in the water one time, went overboard in here in the bay, and that was really an eye opener. I wear Kent, Rogue. I have 2 flotation. I have a coat. It's called a stormer jacket. It's kind of like a half of a survival suit that has inherent flotation. And then I also have, on lighter days, that thing's really heavy, so I get really hot. I'm old school. I work on what I call it the Sky Lounge. I've got a Beaver Valley boat, and it's kind of like Kavik Anderson's on the Katie Lady. That's sort of where I got the idea from, where there's a small topside operating station. And I'm just I'm old school. I'm a fresh air guy. I'm out there all day. I probably look like an idiot, but whatever. So it's how I do it. It's how I roll. And but I wear that stormer on cold, rainy, crappy days, and when it's a little bit warmer, I have the Kent Rogue. It's like the water ski vest, and then my guys also have those. And on crappy days, it's mandatory that they're worn. So, anyways,
safety first.
Yeah, and there's a fine line. I kind of am of the school of fatigue is number one. You got to manage that first. Like that is the root of all of it, if you ask me personally. Like it's definitely the better you can manage fatigue, the better everybody's going to perform, because if you're fatigued, your brain's fatigued, and if your brain's fatigued, you're gonna make you're gonna make poor decisions, and so I try to thread that needle. Like there's, to me, there's no like hard line. There's like you gotta find a balance of what you can do and what you can't do type thing. So,
Tim, what has the sea given to you?
It's given me a great level of respect for its power. It's given me anybody in the Bay or anybody in the Bering Sea will know that it gives you fantastic sunsets, fantastic sunrises. It gives you time to reflect. It gives what I call Tim time. Everybody has their own, time. Ian, my nephew, I love him to death. He's just, he's been with me for, almost 15 years, and he's very much like me. He loves the great outdoors, and we just love Ugashik. We just like the beauty of it, and it's just, it kind of, the whole lifestyle, man, is pretty extreme, and you can, as the saying goes, work hard, play hard, and you have to really learn to temper that. Some people, when I was younger, I struggled with that. I was kind of up in the bar, going at it or whatever, and you have to kind of realize that you got to hang that stuff up, at some point in time. So,
what is the sea taken away from you?
Friends, without a doubt, good friends, and probably, sort of to some degree a bit of your health. But on the other hand, I kind of also feel blessed by it in a way, because it's like when you're out there working hard and eating what, like, God, the sockeye is so killer, man. It's just, when you're eating it fresh out of the ocean, it is unreal. It is just awesome, right? And the same with crab or halibut or bottom fish or any of it, black cod. Every fisherman knows how delicious it is, right? And that is, it's just so healthy. It's so good for you, right? Like I'll tell anybody, sockeye's my secret weapon, and I also will give a shout out to Corky Singleton with Alaska Leader Fisheries and black cod. They have a really good thing going. I believe they are working in conjunction with Universal Seafoods a bit, and they I don't know if you've had it or not, but Costco sells this miso black cod, and Corky.
I have had it.
Yeah, do you know Corky at all?
No.
He's an interesting guy, very bright guy, and he's got a lot to say. And they went. He called it Nobu. I'm no miso expert, but they went to the guru of miso in Japan and got him to sign off, and be in on it or something. But it's that miso, and it's, if you can imagine a sockeye fillet, but it's black cod, and it's in the miso marinade, and basically they're doing fillets, portions. They even have meal kits now where they have like ginger.
Are they paying you?
No, I'm just no. The reason not at all, and I don't even care about that crap, right? What I care about is people stay healthy.
Yeah.
And where I'm going with this is, black cod is also extremely high in omega-3. And, probably higher than sockeye, I think, if truth be told. So I kind of use that as my sort of like my alternate arsenal of getting good, omega-3 seafood that's easy to prepare. You just get it from Costco or the store, and you thaw it in the refrigerator for a couple of days. You pour out the marinade. He's even got a QR code on the bag, and there's instructions there, and it's absolutely delicious and easy to prepare. So
I'm getting hungry.
Oh yeah, me too. So yeah.
So thanks for taking the time today. But before we go,
yep.
Any final thoughts or something you'd like to share to an individual, to your family, to?
Yeah, I would love to share some just family's everything, man. It really is. I've got 2 beautiful girls. They love me. They support me. They've both been up here, fishing. I'm hopeful that my grandson's going to be able to come up with me and I can actually wrap it up with him and teach. They've learned about hard work, and anybody, man, you look at the Russians out here, they got the young kids out here working away, and it's very admirable. People are learning about hard work, and a lot of this is family related, and
there's a lot of boats up here that have families on.
Oh yeah,
I love seeing that.
And at the end of the day, we're one big family and one big brethren, right? I mean, we really, really are, and might not seem like that at times when you're being corked by somebody, but at the end of the day, we are. I mean, we'd all fight, to the, not to the death, but we'd fight vigorously for what we believe in our fishery. So just put it to you that way. So yeah.
Okay, Tim, it's been really great.
Awesome.
Thanks for reminding me why I do this.
Yeah, well, you're doing a great job, and I super appreciate what you're doing. Like I told you, before the podcast, this is really good. I love what you're doing. Love the logo, and I apologize I didn't come on sooner, but I'm just sort of
4 years.
Yeah.
If I would have just got a peanut butter cookie earlier.
Well, now you owe me another peanut butter cookie. So.
Okay. All right, Tim.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Thanks to Xtratuf for being our sponsor. Appreciate you very much. Until next time, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Galley Stories. We hope you like what the net brought in. Please leave us a review on iTunes. Whether you like it or not, we're not fishing for compliments. Look us up on Facebook and Twitter too, and reach out to us at galleystories@gmail.com.